don't know if you can find a better spot than us. And the reason I say that is because there are a lot of institutions you can go to, and yeah, their academic profiles may be perceived to be better than ours. But you might sacrifice in that academic profile the athletic success, the facilities that you train in, the coaching staff, the environment. And yet there are other places you can go to where you might say, gosh, the athletic experience is off the charts, right? Facilities are phenomenal. They compete at a championship level, but what are you sacrificing from an academic standpoint? I happen to believe that we, and there are probably a few others, of course, that really have that tremendous balance between competing in first-class facilities. I sit here now in a $24 million building that's only about a few years old, that we've invested in, that gives every tool in the shed that you could ever need to reach your potential as an athlete. And that is pretty rare for a school of our size, where you're also going to get what I think is a top-notch education, albeit with people that genuinely, truly care. The other interesting fact I think about the Ripon College Athletic Department that might separate us or make us unique from some of our competitors is our campus is comprised of nearly half student athletes. So when you're someone who is a student athlete, you're used to being around other people who are driven, motivated, selfless, just great teammates. I mean, I think that environment here is really unique. On a Saturday in the fall, it's not uncommon to just see lots of sports teams supporting other ones that are out of season, and then vice versa. Come winter and come spring, the fall sport athletes are very much into supporting our athletes, and so is the campus community. Like I said, I've spent 20 plus years in this industry, and it's not uncommon to see a lot of staff and faculty and our town out supporting our athletic programs, which is for many, you're coming from high school environments where that's a big deal, and that's not always the case at a lot of college environments. So kind of a quick brief overview on that. I'm happy to dive into any questions you all may have, in particular about any individual sport. I can give you my kind of view of it as the director of the department on how and where things are at with some of our programs and some of our training. But certainly we've got a couple of student athletes with us that join us now as Cassidy joins us, that they live it on a day-to-day basis. I was a Division III student athlete. I happen to think it's the final frontier of collegiate athletics. It really is the right balance between academics and athletics, and pursuing your passions, albeit by not sacrificing some of the other things that you want to do in life. So with that, I guess I'd open it up, Jill, to some questions, or if Cassidy or Ben want to chime in with a few things about just, their overview on the athletic department here, I'd be happy to hear there.
Sure. Just one question that was in the chat, asking about, do you have to put things in the chat? And no, I'm asking folks for clarification on names and where they're from. If you have a question, you can use the chat, or you can use the Q&A. That is perfectly fine. I think you can also unmute yourself and ask your question that way too. So we're pretty open and informal here. Cassidy has joined us. Ben, if you are on, you can certainly jump back in, and there he is. So Ben and Cassidy, and since we're right there, why don't I have the two of you introduce yourselves? Cassidy, I'll start with you, and maybe just share a little bit about yourself with the group of students that we have on.
Alrighty, well, thanks for having me. My name is Cassie Walters, and I'm a junior here at Ripon College. I play women's basketball. I think an important thing of student athlete is just being super involved. So not only putting your academics first, as well as your sport. I am the president of SAC, which stands for the Student Athlete Advisory Committee. We're basically just a group here on campus that is a voice for all student athletes, and whether that's making the food options here on campus better, to what we can do to support your teams at home games, anything like that. I'm also part of Campus Christian Fellowship and Pinky Swear on campus, and that's a little bit about myself. I'm from Greenfield, Illinois, so it's about 6 hours south. And yeah.
Great. Ben, how about you? You're wandering around. Let's see, outside, inside.
Sorry about that. The fire alarm went off.
Oh.
So I kind of had to book it to somewhere where I could hear it or hear the chat. Hi, I'm Ben
Where are
Chambers.
you right now?
I'm on the terrace outside of Beauvais.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so I think it's a good spot. It's a pretty view.
Maybe you'll just
Uh,
have a walking tour, Ben, right?
Yeah, at this point. So my name is Ben Chambers. I'm from Joliet, Illinois. I'm a junior and a sports management major. I'm the captain of the men's swim team. And yeah, I'm also involved in a couple other groups on campus. I am very large supporter of Greek life on campus. I am in IFC, which is like the governing body over all of fraternity life. And I am the vice president of diversity and inclusion for IFC. So I try and focus on getting everyone involved as much as possible, especially with the campus as involved as this, with so many student athletes. I think that it's very important to have and give as many people as many opportunities as possible. And with this kind of campus, it's very fun because people want to get involved.
Mhm. Cool. Very good. Thank you. And again, students, if you have questions, we're here to answer. Maybe Ryan, if I throw it back to you, I'm not sure if the students who are listening, if they are all recruited athletes or thinking about it, or if they've applied. I know some of them have been applying and accepted, but maybe talk about what the process you and other coaches go through when you look at students.
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, some of you in the chat here tonight might casually be interested in figuring out, like, you know, what is it like? How do you get involved? How do you make it on a team? Obviously, as an NCAA Division III institution, we don't offer any athletic scholarships. And generally speaking, there's opportunity amongst all our programs. It's just a matter of, you know, each program's roster. There's so many things that are factors when kids are trying to make decisions on picking a school. A couple that are often overlooked in this whole process is it's the first time in your life you get to pick your coach. So, you know, reaching out personally to the coach of the sport that you're looking to participate in is probably a great start. You know, the kind of blanket emails that just say, hey, coach, I'm interested in your program, that you might send from a recruiting service or something like that. I don't know if that goes very far with the small college programs. I think we're mostly interested in those kids that are interested in us. Because quite honestly, we can't predict with any level of success your success or failures here athletically. But what we can predict is that you'd have a great education, you'd have a great experience, you'd have people around you that care. And that's probably the number one thing that you should be focused on is, you know, do I fit in this environment? Does it have the type of degree that I'm looking for? And then, yeah, you know, you want to have your pursuits extracurricular, right? And it's not just athletics here. You got two shining examples of it in front of you right now. They're involved in other things on campus, whether it's student groups or Greek life. You can experience all those things and still participate in a sport at the Division III level, which again goes back to my earlier comment about the balance. Now, often at higher levels, it's a real challenge to try to do some of those other things. You feel real tied to your sport, and there's not enough hours in the day to get in everything that you need to get in. So I think it would first start with, you know, some personal outreach. If the coach hasn't already reached out to you, I think getting involved in outreach to the coach personally is a great point, because the other big factor that's often overlooked is what is the timing to join a program? You know, where's the roster at? You know, large upper class, is it an older roster? Is it a younger roster that's starting to grow? You know, what kind of opportunity are you allowed? You know, do you have opportunities for kids that maybe aren't, you know, your top performers? You know, some sports, you know, like the swimming and the tracks, like Ben, you know, Ben's involved in swimming. Everybody's going to participate in those. Doesn't matter. There are other sports that, you know, some of the team sports, you know, you're only going to play a handful, like Cassie's in basketball. So, you know, you might have a roster of 20 girls in the team. So it doesn't mean all 20 are going to play, but what are the other opportunities for those kids that maybe aren't in the rotation? And as a director here, I try to make sure that we have opportunities, not just for your first or your best players on a team, but also anybody that's on the roster, to give them a chance to kind of see what they can do, explore that space. You're going to touch different subjects academically here. And if you want to try to, you know, scratch that itch in soccer or tennis, whatever your passion may be, you know, there's likely an opportunity for you to at least scratch it and see what opportunities are there for you.
I think I'm getting kind of the same questions from a couple of students. do you, is it better to have a student email a coach through their personal account or using a recruiting site? Is one of the questions. And then again, yeah, do you prefer students contact you with a personal school email or recruiting one? Does
Yeah,
that make any difference?
Yeah, I mean, I would say in general, like something personal is really the way to go with it. I mean, I've come across the recruiting services and they're everywhere, and they provide a great value for you as far as exposure. They're going to get you access to coaches. But genuinely speaking, especially for some of you, and I know you guys are from, all over the country, not all coaches recruit geographically, nationally here. And so, reaching out personally is probably a way to separate yourself from some others, right? Like, in other words, like, gosh, I really like Ripon for this. We happen to be really good in exercise science. We are strong in the sciences in general. I mean, got a tremendous business program. You might like the idea of coming up here and seeing tremendous weather changes if you're coming from New Mexico or Texas, like I've seen some of you on this list. So, I would say make it personalized. If it's a recruiting service or if it's from your personal email, make it personal. It's got to say, "Dear Coach Kane, my name is so-and-so. I'm from, New Mexico, and I'm really interested. There's not a lot of opportunities for me down here. I have an adventure spirit. I want to get away from here and go to school somewhere in the upper Midwest." And great. I've got a young man from Texas on my team now who basically came up to this area of the country and visited about 5 or 6 schools and landed on us. He was in Iowa, he was in Minnesota, he was in Illinois, he was in Wisconsin. He checked them all out, kind of had his heart set on this kind of geographic area. And there's no question that on a national scale, small college athletics is really, really strong in the Midwest. We have some of the best athletic programs in the country within the Midwest. You'll see us in a variety of sports competing for national championships right here out of the Midwest. And so there's, a great opportunity too. There's a lot of schools, certainly a lot more than what you'd find in the South or the Southwest or the West. So if you're from those parts of the country, this is a really great spot for you to try to land.
Of course, the question, do we recruit local athletes from Wisconsin? You want to answer that, Ryan?
Yeah, I would say that's where we start first. Yeah, I mean, I think most of our coaches really do a good job of trying to take care of what we call our backyard. We have, the people know us in the state, and certainly, we find that a lot of kids genuinely like the idea of staying maybe a little bit closer to home. We found that certainly when the pandemic coming around, I mean, we're finding kids are becoming a little less adventurous to try to go away from home for school. But yeah, I mean, we certainly will do our best to recruit kids from Wisconsin, and it's a lot more easier for us to evaluate kids from Wisconsin. We're going to require on some film because we're not jumping on a lot of planes and heading out to watch kids in all parts of the country. But, we do have some coaches that do jump on some planes and go visit schools and do showcase events in other parts of the country.
If I could go to our current students, and Ben, I'll start with you, but what was it the reason that you chose Ripon? Can you explain to our group, like, what made you decide? You're from Illinois, as is Cassidy, so.
Well, at first it was a fancy email caught my attention. And then talking to Coach Goggins, he got me up here for a visit, and then the campus honestly sold itself. It's such a gorgeous campus, and it felt like I was immediately home. Everyone was so nice. And then going down to Wilmore, where a lot of the athletic facilities are, it's such a gorgeous facility. So then after that, I met the team, and it just felt like such a close-knit team. Immediately, they just kind of welcomed me there and felt like I was already part of the team and a part of something that's going to be built up to be amazing.
Wonderful. Cassidy, how about you? What was your reasoning for coming to Ripon?
I would say mine is a lot like Ben's. I'd say the only difference is just something to hit on of what Coach Kane talked about. I actually introduced myself to Coach, so I've watched them play before, and that was part of my recruiting process. I told her what I liked about the team. I respected her as a coach just from what I saw, and it's all about putting yourself out there. So the answer is always going to be no if you don't reach out and try. Came up here, beautiful campus. It felt like home away from home. Met the team. I think that's really important, is trying to figure out what the teammates are like, because that's who you're going to spend the next 4 years with. So those are going to be lifelong friendships, and as well as your coaching staff, that they're going to be like second parents. That's going to be your family. So just finding what fits you as a person, and Ripon was it.
Great. What would you say to someone who maybe can't visit? I mean, we got some students from Texas and New Mexico, not that they couldn't, but any thought of how you would advise them on choosing Ripon as a possibility if they can't get here to see it?
I would jump in there and say that, all of our coaches, given where the pandemic has hit us, we've all had to kind of pivot to some level of virtual visits.
Yeah.
And all of us have an opportunity to kind of showcase our programs through a variety of ways. The Instagram generation that we are living in, we have plenty of pictures, we got plenty of videos, we have plenty of things that can talk about like what it's like to be a student athlete in the program and the sport that you're interested in. So I've done several of those, and I think every coach would have the opportunity to kind of sit down with you for an hour or more and kind of pour over all the things that are kind of specific to their program and what their program stands for.
Great. Yes, thank you. Definitely, if you haven't visited, I would encourage you to come to campus to see things in person. And in most instances, we could probably connect you with a coach. But we do have visits daily and some Saturdays, so just so you know, that's available. You can certainly send me an email if you have questions about how to register. If you don't, it's right on our website. I can put that in the chat, but there is one more question.
I see it here, Jill. Looks
Oh,
like,
wow. Yeah, you want to tag some of those?
Related, sure.
Yeah. Okay.
EC, I don't know if I caught the name in the chat. So.
That I think. Oh my goodness.
Oh, it's Eldridge. Oh, my guy Eldridge. Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Good to see Eldridge, or good to have the question. Yeah, I would say for the men's basketball and the women's basketball team, we typically try to carry around 20 on our roster. Some years, based on opportunity of kids who, want to participate, we typically don't say no to too many kids. So, this year we might have a few more than that, but we don't do a junior varsity. So there are programs, and that's kind of what I was getting to earlier. There are, with the opportunity, there are some programs at lots of sports that they have a separate varsity and a separate junior varsity at the Division III level. I'm not a big believer in that. I don't like when your athletes are being coached by a separate coach at a separate time. It just doesn't seem like you're going to gain the kind of unity and the development that you need. I used to work at an institution prior to this that did do the junior varsity thing, and I rarely ever saw a kid come from junior varsity to varsity because they don't get the instruction from the varsity coach that they really need. So what we do is we do reserve contests. Right now, really all of our team sports do that. We play about 10 to 12 games. I know the women's basketball team is playing about 8 to 10 games. Football plays a few games. Soccer, men's and women's, plays a few games. Volleyball plays a few games. Given our location, we've got a number of Division III programs around us, some private, some public, that provide great competition. They all have large rosters like we do. Every institution at higher education is very enrollment driven, so we all carry a decent sized roster, but we don't do the two. And then the question about our prospects for the year, I could give you the coach speak answer, which is I hope to be playing our best basketball at the end of the year, Eldridge, but I like our team. I'm excited about it. Maybe Cassidy has a better chance to tell, maybe she knows how good we'll do. I know that they're the 3-time defending champs. So,
right.
I mean, they should be competing for a championship. The last time we took the floor on a full season, we ended in the championship. So I'd like to think we're going to be competing for one.
Yeah. Couple of questions. One, and Ryan, you probably know this, but do you have any students who play more than one sport at the D3 level at Ripon?
Yeah, at Ripon, yes. The answer to that is absolutely yes. We've got some kids right now that are doing both. In fact, one of Cassie's teammates is playing women's soccer right now. We typically see it in the football and baseball. So like fall and then spring sports typically have a pretty good a mix with that.
Mhm.
But yeah, you really need an institution that is intimate in nature. I think it's really hard at some of the larger schools with larger enrollments to pull that kind of dual sport athlete thing off. Here, it just lends itself because you really don't see a chance to fail. There's so many people from the faculty that are going to help you through the fact that you're going to have so many practices and potentially missing so many classes for road contests throughout the course of the year, that it behooves itself to be at a smaller school. And we have a coaching staff here that really works well together with those types of things. I can tell you that in my time here, I actually had the Midwest Conference Player of the Year. He was the 5th leading scorer in the country, and also was an all-region center fielder and first team all conference in baseball. Batted 3rd on a championship team. So to say it can be done is an understatement. I have a kid right now that ran track and played basketball for me. And usually what ends up happening though is one, you either have a little bit more success than the other. It's pretty rare to see you go 4 years through it. Typically one tends to kind of rise up over the other, but excellent question.
I wanted to get back to the students to maybe see time management is probably a big deal for any student, but when you're an athlete as well, I think that's a big deal. Can you maybe talk about how you manage daily? What's your day look like on a given day when you're in season? If either of you want to jump in on that question, or I'll pick on you, Cassidy.
Yeah. I would say it definitely depends what all else you're involved in. It's definitely jam-packed. I know my Monday, Wednesday, Fridays can be pretty jam-packed, but then that leaves your Tuesday, Thursdays open. So it just depends on what your schedule looks like. As far as preseason, in season, and postseason, that's also very different. So in season, we're competing. You make sure you give your body recovery time. You're resting. You're just in a different element. Preseason, we're lifting, we're going at it, but we're not going a typical 6 days in a week. But it's like any free chance you get, you're playing. So it varies. The biggest thing is having a calendar, just eating right, getting your sleep, doing what you can to help your body to make you be very intentional in your schedule every day.
Ben, any added thoughts to that? How you manage time?
Yeah, I completely agree with Cassidy. For us, we highly encourage study tables for any time after we eat dinner at for preseason and in season. We try our best to kind of all eat dinner after practice together as a team. And then afterwards, we kind of all either go to the library or go to someone's room or go into a kind of a study area to just kind of encourage the academic success portion of being a student athlete.
Great. Let's see, I had another question on here.
I would just jump in there with the time management thing. Something that I do as the athletic director is, it's a new initiative we started actually this year where I do an orientation with all the first year student athletes. And we cover kind of all of the tools that you really need to be successful at the college level. That's a little different than high school, right? There's so much routine that goes in with being a high school student athlete. You wake up, you go to class every day, bell, bell, bell. You have your practices, everything's kind of laid out for you here. There's more opportunity to manage your day or mismanage your day, really. And, there's only so many hours in a day. There's 24 hours and you're going to be in, the typical NCAA student athlete spends about 5 or so hours a day on their sport sometimes. I mean, between practice, they've got lifting, they've got, they're taking care of their bodies in the training room and things like that. I mean, it adds up. You're going to have, 6 or more hours athletic or academically. The average student athlete gets about 6 hours of sleep a night, and then you need that self-care. So we talk a lot about nutrition, sleep management, the time management skills. We cover the things that come around hazing prevention, things of all of those things are really critical to kind of getting started on the right foot as a freshman.
Questions. A person asked, are you still filling 2022 grad roster spots? And I would say, yes, we are. But for you, Ryan, no.
Yeah, 2022. So that would be, yeah,
For
I'm sorry,
next fall.
2021, we're done. Yeah, 2022.
Yeah,
for sure
21's
we are.
done.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody's recruiting cycle is a little different. It always depends on kind of like what your high school cycle is like. But yeah, certainly we are knee deep in evaluation. Right now, it's always a busy time of year in the fall for visits. So again, I would encourage you to come on a visit.
Yeah.
And that's a typical cycle, is to come on the visit. If you can, if your sports in the fall, see the team play, spend some time with them, come back for a second visit after, you may have eliminated some schools. I think the biggest piece of advice I could probably share with the people on here tonight, and maybe Cassidy and Ben can attest to this, is that so much of this is about making a decision to pick a school, but quite honestly, a big piece of this is also eliminating schools. It's easier to eliminate schools that you just really can't see yourself at. You don't see anything there, and then it becomes a little bit more of an easier decision. But that's a big piece of this. It's not just picking the school.
Someone did ask earlier about if they can't visit. I know we mentioned virtual Zoom meetings and things with coaches, but I should mention too that we do offer a virtual tour with one of our student ambassadors that work for the admission office. I know faculty are willing to do Zoom appointments and things. So really let us know how we can get you connected to things, whether it is a session like this or with a student that could talk with you personally one-on-one. Admission counselors like myself, we're happy to talk to you and your family. So whatever we can do, if you can't get here, that's easy. We can, Zoom is our new friend, right? We can use this in all different kinds of manners. And then I would just put the plug out there that this is the second session we've held this fall regarding admission kinds of things. So keep looking, because there's more to come. We have a financial aid session in a few weeks. We're going to have sessions for fun, sessions with students. So this is a great way to stay connected, or at least learn more as well. And then I had a question. Yin is asking about what are some of the most popular teams for girls? Would you have any thought to I know what sports are for girls, but do you have anything you want to add?
Basketball.
Basketball?
Yeah, I was waiting for Cassidy to say basketball.
Yeah, right.
I think they're all popular.
Right.
To be honest with you.
Right.
In the fall right now, obviously volleyball is a big deal. It's the only indoor sport that we have, and so it's a place to be seen and go. We have just had a volleyball invitation here this past weekend. It was very well attended. Women's soccer is always well attended. We just actually renovated our spectator viewing area at Perry Field. It's gorgeous now. We play on probably one of the nicest grass surfaces in the Midwest. So it's really nice.
And I heard that was packed too, that the bleachers were full. Yeah, they're
exactly. And, from a women's tennis standpoint, it's very popular because we got brand new tennis courts, indoor and outdoor. And so, we're playing on great surfaces, and we've got a tremendous coach who's got a ton of energy behind it. He happens to be our SAC advisor as well. And obviously when the weather turns a little colder, it's nice to be indoors and watch the women's basketball team, which has won 3 consecutive conference championships and been in the national tournament. The pool is a nice spot to be when it's cold up here in Wisconsin in the winter months. So, being in that pool, there's nothing wrong with that. And certainly, a nice spring day over at Francis Field or at Tracy Field, I should say, for softball is a good spot to be as well. So like I said, there's plenty of it's all popular because athletes support athletes at a place like Ripon.
And we do draw from all over. there are students on campus. We just yesterday, a girl from Anchorage, Alaska visited who is looking to play softball. So, when I see people from Texas and New Mexico, and that's kind of normal. We do have students from all over. Definitely, we have a good amount of students from Wisconsin, the Midwest, because it's close, but you're not alone if you're coming from farther away. As Coach said earlier, half of our kids probably are in a sport and varsity level, which is great. I think earlier Ben and Cassidy talked about what they're involved in. That's not abnormal. Every time I talk to a student, they tell me a list of things they're involved in. So this isn't like random two folks that are really busy and highlighting their experiences. This is normal. If you're not in a sport, you're in a club and a sorority and you work and, all these different things that you can do. So it's pretty active campus for students to do things in their 4 years. So
the geographic diversity that Jill is talking about here, this might be the plug to talk about a little bit about the Midwest Conference, which is one of the true intercollegiate conferences in the Midwest. We comprise of 3 states, and we're comprised of some of the more elite private liberal arts colleges in the Midwest, if not the country. And so you can imagine that you're not just playing against like you said, kids from Wisconsin or kids from Illinois. I mean, the rosters on these teams are from all over the country who you're playing against. And we typically, have true overnight travel. We're taking long road trips, spending nights in hotels and traveling via charter bus. Whereas, there are some conferences in Division III that, are very kind of larger high school conferences. You're just day trips and, so there's some neat travel and you're playing against some really diverse geographic rosters.
great. Let's see ones. Maybe I'll go to, well, I think it's important. It's a big part of Ripon is our Catalyst curriculum. Not to go into great detail. I mean, this is about athletics and things, but Ben and Cassidy, could you maybe just say a thing or two about the Catalyst curriculum and your studies, like how that has allowed you to major or minor in things and how you feel about the Catalyst curriculum?
Yeah, I think the Catalyst is really cool coming in. It's something very new, something I never heard of. And with me being a junior now, I am done with the Catalyst, but I thought each segment from freshman, sophomore up until that Catalyst 300 really set you up for success. And I know how to talk in front of crowds, how to write a paper, how to do the math part. Like there's just so many different steps going into it, and it just sets you up for success leading into your senior year. As for my major, it helps to kind of it took me outside of my comfort zone. So it puts you in some classes I probably wouldn't have taken before with professors from a different department, which I thought was the coolest part about it.
Great. I'll just say again, one quick thing, then Ben can answer too. But if you don't know what the Catalyst is, that's our take on our general requirements that we would have at Ripon. There's 5 classes equaling 20 credits. I don't want to get into too much of that right now, but it is a key part of what makes Ripon special too, because of the options to take a lot of different things and perhaps double major, a major and a minor, things like that. I know students who are triple majors, so it's a very, a great place for you to do lots of things. So with that, Ben, do you want to maybe add any comments about what your experience with that is?
Yeah, absolutely. I loved every second of it. It gave me so many opportunities of putting me in classes in situations that I would not be in normally. And I probably wouldn't choose if I had an option, but it forced me to get out of my comfort zone and experience things and meet people and professors that I would never have on a normal basis. So now that I've had those experiences, I kind of know what I want to do now with the rest of my life, and kind of helped me decide on what my major and both my minors.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yep. Good. And yeah, again, that curriculum as a first year student, it really does allow you to try out things that you are interested in. I should point out, I think it's something that students that are seniors really get the pressure to, where are you going? What are you going to do? What are you going to study? And I think it's really important to know that a lot of our students, probably again, half come in when they do not know what their major is going to be. And it's okay. You can come in and take some courses that sound interesting to you and then find your way. And there are faculty to help you with that. You'll have advisors. So it's a great place to come and explore some different things. Cassidy mentioned taking courses with different faculty members. So all those things are really a neat part of an education at Ripon's campus. We lost Cassie, unless she just had some issues with her connection. But Ryan, anything else that you wanted to add, or I want to kind of keep us to about a 45-minute or so session here, but, and
Sure.
again, students, feel free to ask more questions.
I do see one asking
Did you?
about athletes in studying abroad for a
Oh,
semester.
yeah, sorry.
Okay, I can tell you that, generally for the winter sport athletes, it's rather uncommon, just given that the sports cross over both academic semesters. So typically a broad program would be immersive over an entire fall or spring semester. We do have some abroad options that have had transpired in the past in what we call a Maymester. There are some summer things that you could do as far as abroad, but yeah, generally speaking, those things are very available. When you talk about, a fall sport, you can do it in the spring, or if you're play a spring sport, you can do it in the fall. There are non-traditional segments for both those fall and spring sports, meaning, baseball's traditional season is in the spring, but right now they have a handful of weeks that they get to work out with their coach right now. So you'd be missing some of those things, but at Division III, that's a pretty common deal. Again, it's more about the student athlete experience here than it is about, making sure that you make every single training session. I think that's important. So.
Cassidy, you're back. Lost you for a sec. Anything else? Again, parting thoughts from Ben or Cassidy, anything that you want to give a shout out? If students, we have a lot of students who haven't applied yet. Maybe what would you say would be a good reason to apply? And I have a question here. As you're thinking about that, the hours for facilities, really Wilmore Center, and Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, Wilmore Center is really free access to you pretty much till, is it maybe 10 or 11 on the weeknights, Ryan?
Yeah, so we 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay.
We've tinkered around with the 5 a.m. deal. We didn't see a lot of people using it at 5 a.m. So we shrunk it to 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Yeah, I'm familiar that there are some facilities that have 24/7 access. I personally, I think it goes against what your time management skills should be allowing. If you can't find time to work on your sport between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m., then we need to sit down and work on your time management skills.
Right. Sleep is important.
Yes.
Cassidy, what would you say to a student who is thinking about Ripon? Why should they maybe consider Ripon?
I would say first off, on top of your other question, is to go ahead and to apply. Someone should reach back out to you. So if you're timid on doing that, like I said, you gotta go for it. You gotta put yourself out there, or else you're not gonna get any answers. And you're not gonna get anywhere. Someone who is looking to apply to Ripon, and why you should do it is it's like a family. There will be someone to contact you. They'll set you up in whatever direction you're wanting, whether that's sports or you're wanting like the art department, band, music, exercise science. They'll hook you up with people. You can talk to other students on campus. Just ask if you want to hear another person's story or what it is that you can do to help prepare you to come to Ripon for a visit or to come here whenever you commit or anything along that nature. The biggest thing is just putting yourself out there and be so open to learning from other students and faculty.
Thank you. Good. Ben, how about you? Final thoughts, words of wisdom?
Yeah, I came from a very large school from Illinois, so I was very used to just being a number, and at Ripon you aren't just a number. Everyone kind of knows who you are. You're very important to this entire community. So if this is kind of just an amazing place, and you should definitely apply here. This is awesome.
Great. All right. Okay, we got just some good things. Go Ripon. Perfect. Yeah, definitely come on out and see us. Football is next weekend, another home game. I know those have been well attended, and we've won both that I know of the home games. I'm just going to put in my email here. Again, you would have gotten the information to register from me. I am one of the admission counselors, but I'm the campus coordinator for events. So if you, and I missed the J, I always do that. I'm trying to type and talk at the same time. If you have any questions that we didn't answer or you're thinking about, feel free to reach out to me and I will make sure we get it to the right person and do my best to get your answer. I see, is there one more question? Oh,
The last
good question.
sold out men's basketball game was the last one we played.
Yeah. This one is a question I will happily answer this. How do we help students pay for school? Yes, very good question. We have scholarships. I would say that many students and families are surprised by how affordable it can be. We have that higher sticker price, but do know that once you are accepted, you will receive an academic scholarship based on your merit. Those start, the minimum is $24,000 per year and go all the way to $36,000 per year. So you'll fall somewhere in there, depending on how your high school, your GPA, and all that looks to be for us. And that's a lock-in 4-year renewable dollar amount. And then, of course, there's financial aid, which I mentioned October 12th. We have a Zoom session on financial aid. If you're not familiar, we have some great tips. And we do have one on campus October 6th in person as well, if you're looking to come to that in Ripon. But financial aid, you can file that and we will put together an offer for you based on your family and all those good things to get you that price that it would cost. And I would ask for maybe a thumbs up from Cassidy and Ben that we've given generous scholarships to make it work. And yeah, no one pays full price. So that's a good thing to know, but good question. We'll do our best to work with you on that.
I would just add in the 10 years that I've been here, I've never once had a prospect choose another institution because of money.
Yeah. Yep. And when you go back to, the Division III in athletics and playing and the Catalyst curriculum and the choice to do more than one major, all those things, and a 4-year guarantee. So those things really are equitable and make it really worth that price. But I would agree that people typically, say that we're comparable to other schools they're looking at and maybe even a better price, but it's all about what's involved. So. Oh, and then one more thing I thought of when I was mentioning the application, we are test optional. So we do not require your ACT or SAT scores. Again, if you have questions more, feel free to email me and I will get those answers to you, but really easy to apply. All right. With that, thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Thanks to Ben and Cassidy and Coach. I appreciate your time tonight. And I look forward to seeing more of you apply and maybe seeing it on a Zoom session or in person soon. So have a good night, everybody. Thanks. Bye.